Good evening, JMU Nation. Greetings from the Quad, and welcome to the kickoff event of our presidential tour to introduce the seventh president of James Madison University. I'm Nick Langridge, the Vice President for Philanthropy and Engagement, and as a triple Duke who's been walking the campus since 1996, I'm especially thrilled to see that we have more than 730 fellow Dukes in attendance tonight. I also want to acknowledge the Board of Visitor members who are joining us this evening, our Rector Suzanne Obenshane and Jolie Mock. It's an exciting week for us here on campus at JMU, as we are about to host Family Weekend, one of the most exciting weekends of the year. In fact, this year we have comedian Jim Gaffigan performing at the Atlantic Union Bank Center on Friday night, to what I'm being told is soon to be declared a sellout crowd. And of course, no family weekend would be complete without the chance to throw some streamers. Our JMU football team will then play host to the Georgia Southern Eagles on Saturday afternoon at 1:30 p.m. So be sure to root on your Dukes. And that's a sellout as well. But as for tonight, this Zoom webinar is our first event before President Jim goes on the road for some tour stops around the country. I would encourage you to attend these upcoming events and to meet our new president in person. You can register for any and all tour events using the link in the chat. This presidential tour is an opportunity for President Jim and the JMU Nation to not only get to know one another, but also to have a dialogue that will inform the upcoming university strategic plan. You will hear more about that from the president himself in just a moment. Let me take the opportunity to share a few highlights about President Jim and his impressive 30-year career in higher education, because you will see how he is uniquely positioned to lead JMU. Dr. Schmidt, or President Jim, as students yesterday as we were walking down the sidewalk called him, came here from the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, where he served as chancellor since 2013, achieving national recognition for undergraduate research, study abroad, as well as Fulbright and Rhodes Scholars. Philanthropy, industry partnerships, and capital expansion also flourished under President Schmidt's leadership. He was part of securing a $70 million gift for a new athletics facility and led efforts on a $340 million science and health sciences building in partnership with the Mayo Clinic. He previously served as vice president for university advancement at Winona State University and vice president for student affairs at Riverland Community College. Wisconsin's governor, Tommy Thompson, dubbed Jim Schmidt as the entrepreneurial chancellor, which gives you a clue to his approach to leadership. Now, to give you a first-hand glimpse, here's a video that offers further introduction to JMU's seventh president, Dr. James C. Schmidt. Let's watch.
I can't tell you how excited I am to be your seventh president of this amazing, great university community. Every civic, business, and philanthropic leader I've met with has told me that JMU is transformative. We're having a real impact on the lives of the people they employ and on the economic and entrepreneurial health of the Commonwealth, as well as the civic health of the region. But you know, I've been particularly moved by a simple gesture that I think gets to the heart of JMU and what you all live and breathe every day. The simple act of holding the door for fellow students, colleagues, and visitors. And it says a transformative education at a transformative place involves not only what we learn, but what we do. My goal is to preserve and to protect this legacy every moment of my presidency. What a foundation from which to look forward together to our shared future. I believe it's time for JMU to step out from behind the shadow of our sister universities and make our own path to distinction. The long trampled pathways they travel are not our destination. We're looking for a new road one uniquely suited to our history and strengths. I believe it's time for JMU to reimagine what learning, research, and what leadership looks like for 2030 and beyond. We can be more nimble, more creative, and more people-focused than our competitors. What if we decided to create a new model? One that addresses the head and the heart, and that would catapult JMU ahead of the pack. We can lead that charge. Why not JMU? Good evening, and thank you to all for tuning in this evening. I'm so grateful for your commitment to James Madison University. Let me second Nick's acknowledgement of our Board of Visitor members in attendance. Thank you for your confidence in me. I'm looking forward to getting to know you all better, and I hope you'll be getting to know me as well. I look forward to meeting you in person, and when we do, please call me President Jim, just like all the Dukes on our campus do. I want you to know that I see all of our Dukes as key partners in unlocking JMU's potential and shaping its future. Like you, I believe we serve a noble purpose here, educating students who will go out and make the world a better place. And like you, I believe JMU has a special culture, one that's distinctive, authentic, and deeply rooted in civility, respect, and putting students first. That's what drew me here to begin with. And to quote another Jim, Captain James T. Kirk, Star Trekkies out there will know what that's about. My prime directive is to protect that legacy of putting students first as we move forward. And I want to build on it. I want to give our students even more opportunities, more hands-on learning, more ways to be engaged, both the head and the heart. Right now, we're in the midst of an 8-month strategic planning process. Yes, that's lightning speed for higher education. We're moving fast, but we're also focused. We're having meetings on campus to acquire input from faculty, staff, and students, and I want you to be a part of it. Your insight, your experience, your networks, they're all essential as we shape a bold vision for what JMU can be best in the world at. We face dramatic and rapid change in society and across our world today, making it even more critical for us to seek out bold new ways to define and reinvent learning and research in the next century. I've been busy since landing in Virginia. I've been crisscrossing the Commonwealth, meeting with business leaders and top donors, more than 60 so far. And I have to say, the response and energy is electric. As Nick mentioned, I intend to gather even more input from alumni, parents, donors, and friends during this presidential tour as I listen for your ideas. When I say ideas, I mean big ideas. Ideas that solve world problems, rural health care, food, water sustainability, reinventing what it means to be a research university, equipping our students and as graduates for careers for the future and for lives of impact. That's the kind of vision we're building, one that focuses on a few bold things that truly set JMU apart from the crowd. I want JMU to be the university that business, industry, nonprofits, and frankly, the rest of higher education turn to when they're facing a challenge. I want them to say, I wonder what JMU is doing about that. I wonder if JMU could be our partner. I want us to be the go-to university of the future. We're already a national university. We've all grown up. But now I want us to be in the national spotlight because our faculty, staff, and our alums have placed us there. And I believe that some of the most transformative ideas will come from you. So as we brainstorm, plan, and implement together, I want us to be asking all the people around us, why not JMU? Nick gave you highlights of my career. I've been called the entrepreneurial president, and I take that seriously. I tend to be bold, innovative, visionary, entrepreneurial, responsive, the go-to institution. we're going to make big moves. We're going to attempt to do big things, and we're going to do it together. It's going to take big commitment and big investment. In April, I'll be circling back to you with our strategic plan, and I'll be asking for your help. I'll be looking for your expertise, your involvement, your networks, and your financial support. In fact, I plan to spend at least 25% of my time on philanthropy, drawing on my fundraising experience and success as Vice President for University Advancement at Winona State University and as Chancellor at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. Big things are in store for JMU. I'll be coming back to our JMU Nation to help take our big vision and make it real. Big ideas require big backing. I'm really excited about the future. I'm only on week 11, I think, on the job. I hope you are excited about what the future holds for JMU. So I know you've submitted some questions for me. So Nick, how would you like to help me out with some of those?
Absolutely. Absolutely. President Jim, believe it or not, it looks like we've received more than 150 questions that were submitted during the registration for tonight's event. So to fit them into the time we all have together, we identified some common themes and we've selected a few for you to answer tonight. For the audience benefit, we'll put the questions in the chat as we go along. All right. So our first question is from an alumna, Jessica Schneider. Jessica asks, holding the door is an old JMU tradition that goes back to Madison College. And even further back, she recalled with a conversation she had with a graduate from the normal school, even further back to the normal school days. Jessica wants to know, has everyone been holding the door for you, President Jim?
You know, I heard about that tradition during the search process, and it instantly told me volumes about this university. At a time when you go across most university campuses, you have people who've got their face buried in their phone, earbuds in or earphones on, some looking down, some looking away. And this simple act, as I mentioned, as was highlighted in the video, forces, at least for a moment, for people to step aside and notice people around you. I think you may have heard about my secret shopper trip. I came to the campus in January. There was snow on the ground for 2.5 days, watching, listening, observing, mostly keeping my mouth shut, just listening. But I did go up to students with tables full of students and ask them, why did they pick JMU? What did they love most about it? And what do they hope to do once they leave JMU? I sat back and I heard amazing stories. But I wanted to observe if this Duke's holding the door was just a marketing campaign and some promotion that somebody came up with. But instead, I watched and observed that all across the campus. I noticed they opened the doors for me, and usually they would beat me to the punch, but then I'd open the doors for them. And I was just dressed in khakis and a sweater. I looked pretty inconspicuous, other than I'm a lot older than the average student. And when I'd open the door, my gosh, the students would say, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much for doing that." I said, "I hope you have a great day." And so it wasn't a perfunctory action. It was actually making that human connection. And candidly, I don't mean to make too big of a deal of it, but it's been one of my observations. This simple act, this kernel of importance, is something this country needs more than ever. No matter what you look like, what you believe, what you have for perspective, what you're studying, every single person deserves that touch of human dignity, to be acknowledged, to make eye contact, and gratitude. And I have to tell you, Nick, I get pretty emotional when I talk about that one simple act. It speaks volumes.
Well, I can tell you all that President Jim has been already holding the door quite often for students as well, metaphorically and literally. All right, our next question is appropriate as we have family weekend upon us because it's from a parent. So we have John Davis, a JMU parent, asked the question, do you see that JMU has the ability to expand internship opportunities for Dukes in the next 2 to 3 years?
Well, you know the answer, Nick. You've come with me and been a great host as you've introduced me to some of our most prominent alums, but many just our largest employers across the Commonwealth. And I ask them about the experiences that they have when they meet our students. Among the things they say is our students tend to be so grounded. They don't have that sense of entitlement. They have good power skills, as I've talked about them, the ability to interact and work with people. You pick up a lot of those skills, not only on campus like JMU, but also by having that experience in the workplace. Internships, practicums, clinical experiences are very important. I would like to figure out a way to ensure every student has that opportunity. And as you've heard, Nick, we've had a number of our largest employers say, there are ways we could expand this. And I'm working with our academic offices and discussing how we could take more advantage about how we even organize the academic year. Because unfortunately, we probably can't get everybody an internship in Harrisonburg in the immediate area. So we need to create those opportunities in other parts of the Commonwealth. So if you're one of those alums that has a company that would like to support internships, please reach out to me. I can tell you from my past experience, when a student does an internship, nearly 70% of them get a job offer. And of those students who go directly into the job market when they're done, more than 40% of them are taking a job where they previously interned. Uh, we're finding more and more that when a student crosses their stage to shake my hand and take the diploma, more than 70% of them already have jobs. In fact, more than 95% of our graduates have a job within 6 months after leaving school. And more importantly than that, pay attention to this. 97% of those who went directly into the workforce say that the job they've taken is a part of their career goals. So help me spread that news. No matter what your major is, the students who go directly into the workforce love the job they've taken, and it's helped them take that next step. So when you hear somebody tease one of any student, you want fries with that order, you push back and say, that's a myth. Our JMU Dukes do very well in the workforce, and we're very proud of them.
Thank you, Jim. It's been clear both in your prior track record and in the conversations I've witnessed you having with employers that you have a commitment to being nimble, responsive, to being creative, people focused, and really truly earning that partner of choice reputation with employers. So I think that will lead to a lot on the internship front. Our next question is from alumna Lindsay Vivenzio, and Lindsay wants to know, what role do you see alumni playing in shaping the university's future, both in mentoring current students and in strengthening the school's reputation?
I just was talking to my wife yesterday about my experience with alums and talking to people all across the Commonwealth. I've talked, as I've mentioned, to our employers, our alumni. I've met with more than 30 legislators from across the Commonwealth. I'm talking to people in the communities, and I've heard this thing. I said, I know I've heard it a minimum 100 times, and today I heard it 4 or 5 more times. I'm hearing it from freshmen, this statement about our alumni. I'm amazed that what I keep hearing from all of these constituents is, I know so many JMU alumni, and they have only great memories. They are the happiest people. And he said, I've yet to find one to say anything bad about their experience at JMU. And I want to say all of those audiences, including all the freshmen I'm meeting on campus, because every single student I meet on campus, I ask them about their hometown and why they selected JMU. And I heard in the East cafeteria today, when I was meeting with some students for lunch, 5 more students who directly quoted that back to me. So alums, you are making a difference. Your attitude, how you talk about yourself in the workplace. I had alums from my previous institution that when I got this job immediately, reached out to me. These are blue golds, they're not Dukes, but they say, I work with so many JMU folks. I can't believe it. They are the happiest people I've ever met, and they're so happy with their experience. So you are spreading the gospel of JMU and what it means to be a Duke. So your lived experience and how you carry yourself, how you talk about makes a big difference. Now, I don't think that was the source of the question, but I wanted to start by acknowledging that. As I mentioned earlier, as to bring this new strategic plan that we're starting to develop to life, I'm going to I'm going to call out to Duke Nation to help us with your networks, help us with reaching out to policymakers, help us make connections with Dukes to give back to the university. Help us figure out when we set this bold, focused vision, how we can connect. Connect me to your businesses, connect me to corporate partners who can provide those internships, real world experiences. We're going to count on Duke Nation to help us breathe life into the strategic plan, frankly, by doing the things you're already doing naturally, except we're going to get a concentrated effort. We can do this, doing it together.
Well, there's so much potential there on the alumni front with over 167,000 active living alums. It's a robust career network to lean into, and mentoring certainly a great opportunity. All right, our next question comes from a JMU faculty member, Connie Frigo. Connie asks, President Jim, what do you see as the biggest challenges and the biggest opportunities in the next 5 years?
Well, the world is changing, isn't it? Let me start by what I think the world needs. One of the things that's really impressed me about uh, the culture at JMU is, harkens back to the namesake of this institution, James Madison. And it's around civic engagement, that belief that we all have responsibility for our communities, states, and the country as a whole. Being able to have important, tough conversations, do it in a way that shows respect, seeking to understand another person's perspective, understanding that because there's a disagreement, that does not make us enemies. I see that esprit de corps among the student population at JMU. Frankly, I see it especially when tragedy reigns somewhere in this country. I see Dukes coming together, that understanding that while we may not agree on everything, that we do hang together. And I think that is one of the things that we can be a leader in for this country. I think we already are, but I think our country needs that from us. Also, the world is changing. I've heard a lot from our alums and with corporate leaders about the impact of artificial intelligence. A lot of the first run of a professional life may be taken in by artificial intelligence systems that are really kind of doing some of the basic work that is often that first run on a career ladder. What I'm hearing is there's something that the AI doesn't do very well, and that's get people together and solve problems. And I mentioned that phrase earlier. Back in the 70s and 80s, 90s, frankly, even a few years ago, we often talked about critical thinking, problem solving skills, the ability to write and speak articulately, and to know how to work effectively with a team. We often refer to those as soft skills. Let me tell you, the hard skills are going to be done a lot more and more by AI. Those soft skills we've rebranded as power skills. Frankly, that's already made a difference. I think that was an unfortunate phrase that was attached to those important ideas, things that come from that broad education that is part of that four-year degree. We've heard this from some of our largest employers, that the thing that sets JMU folks apart is that ability to actually address problems, communicate. Imagine the accountant who has good accounting skills, but they didn't really work on their communication skills. One of the things I've heard about are accountants, or engineers, many of the people in many of those technical areas, is that our grads know how to communicate. They can effectively prepare a memo to give to a customer that people aren't embarrassed by. So I think those are two of the biggest changes that the world needs from us, and some of that upcoming change that's being done by the technology. And I think, frankly, JMU is not only well positioned, but I think we're really called to be that national leader.
Well, it certainly is a complex time, but there are enormous opportunities, and you have the right creative and nimble thinking, I think, to help us seize those opportunities. All right, so our next question is from alumnus Khalil Garriott, and Khalil wants to know, President Jim, how do you plan to maintain and cultivate the small school feel with the personalized human touch during this period of such growth and national acclaim?
Well, it's really remarkable. JMU has had great success over the past several decades. And I want to start by acknowledging all the previous leaders at JMU, both presidents, deans, faculty members, student leaders, and all the dedicated staff that have really set JMU apart. The powerful thing about culture is it tends to stay with an organization. And I realized this when I walked onto the campus for the first time as president on July 1st, that my number one responsibility was to honor and protect, and if necessary, defend that culture. Because I will tell you, having spent almost 40 years in higher education and administration, almost every university president, I don't know if they kill for it, but they would give a lot to be able to have the kind of culture we have at JMU. An interesting thing is that uh, there's research that's done on a frequent basis over the period of time that tries to measure students' sense of belonging. It asks them, is there a trusted adult on campus that they can go to and knows that they care about them? Do they have friends they can rely on? Do they have those important faculty and staff relationships? Sometimes it's the housekeeper in the dormitory who makes it a time when they know a student's not feeling well that brings some fresh baked cookies or to check in with them to make sure they're doing all right. That sense of community, that sense of caring is what creates that small field. The interesting thing is even as the university's enrollment has more than doubled over the last couple decades, that sense of belonging has grown right along with it. So I think we will maintain that small sense of campus feel in part because of the beauty of the campus, that invitation to hang out on the quad, to be on the festival lawn on East Campus, to meet up at the recreation center, to cheer our Dukes on in the basketball arena and the football field, to attend a concert to show appreciation. That sense of belonging can be there. What I hear students say is, I may not know every student's name, but I recognize them. And that's really pretty remarkable that you have students who are looking up, part of it's the opening the doors, and recognize that special Duke connection. I will tell you that there's been all kinds of lists that have come out just yesterday. U.S. News and World Report submitted or presented their research for this past year. I'm very proud to say that as a national university, JMU, your university, out of almost 4,000 colleges and universities, ranked number 22 in the country for the quality of the undergraduate teaching experience. So for all of the faculty who are watching and all of our retired faculty who continue to be engaged, thank you, thank you, thank you. Teaching is at the heart of everything we do, and I think we're well positioned for the future.
Thank you for that answer, President Jim. And I can see your commitment to helping us achieve the goal of making big feel small. All right, our next question is from Laura White. And Laura is both a parent and an alum. Laura asks, President Jim, how would you describe your top level or big picture goals and plans for sustaining and building connections with the community around JMU, Harrisonburg, Rockingham County, and the Shenandoah Valley?
It's a great question. It goes to the heart of what's most important to me. I've always lived by the statement that you have to build the relationships before you need them. You know, in the course of running a university, there's going to be times where you really need someone, so you better make those friends early on. Very first day on the job, I met with the mayor of Harrisonburg, met with the entire city council and city leadership. I think it was the second week that I was on the job. That was as soon as they could get together. It was the 4th of July week that I started. Met with the leadership of Rockingham County. I invited them and all the economic development officials in the region to our welcome address. I welcomed all the faith leaders from this region to my welcome address as well. This is all part of building community. It's people that our students rely on and our faculty and staff rely on. We can't take for granted the relationships we have in the local community. It's where I said, you know, housing has been a challenge, and that I would like to build more additional housing on our campus so we can house more students to free up space for working people in the Harrisonburg area. We should be a part of community solutions. That's on a basic level. I have some very exciting thoughts and ideas I've presented to faculty, staff, and leaders about how we might create community-based, problem-based learning experiences early as that freshman fall semester to help introduce them, get them connected to the community. You know, I've met with the law enforcement officials and others in our region who help keep us all safe. And it's important that we have those kinds of connections. And as I mentioned earlier, I put more than 4,000 miles on the car, crisscrossing the Commonwealth, met with all of the businesses. I think we're in a really good position. The response has been really outstanding. I feel quite confident that we'll be able to count on local folks to stand with us because we're going to stand with them. It's an interdependent partnership. What's good for the community and the county is good for the university. And I'd like it to be said that what's good for the university is good for the city and the county and the region as well.
Well, thank you, Jim. You certainly have shown a commitment to being a great neighbor and also to the importance of the sense of place that we have here in the Commonwealth. All right, our next question is from a parent, Glenn Wilczaki, and Glenn asks, what initiatives are planned to ensure that degree programs at JMU remain relevant and allow graduates to compete for the jobs of the future, especially given the rapidly changing workforce?
Well, you know, it's really important for people to understand that we're not a vocational trade school. We have professional programs. I worked at a technical college as one of my first jobs in higher ed when I was 22 years old. So I have deep regard for that. We need good technical and trade schools. We need community colleges. We need apprenticeships and other aspects. But a four-year bachelor's degree is meant to give you broad underpinning of those power skills that I've already discussed. And the major is really a deep dive into a subject matter area to show that you have expertise and the ability to do the research, the commitment, and the deep understanding of an area. Certainly for our professional schools, you know, I'm married to a nurse practitioner, and the area of nursing, the amount of knowledge a nurse today needs versus 20 years ago is more than twice as much. Things are constantly evolving. I think it's incumbent on us to make sure that we're looking at things like AI, making sure that we have a level of competency in these skills that students are going to need in the future, how to use it responsibly, understand its limitations, and to make sure that we shore up the other pieces so that they can continue to be agile. You know, the research shows that our grads are going to have multiple jobs, multiple careers. Our job is to prepare them for that change, get them used to a constant whitewater world, as Stephen Covey used to say, where things are always changing, help with their resilience so that they know how to respond, but then get them started in that first career or two with the solid skills they need, and they will remain competitive. If you take a look at the success of so many of our alums who are CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, gone on to be great entrepreneurs, to start companies, I think it's very clear there's something in the soil, the water, and the blue stone that is quite fertile grounding for each of our JMU grads.
I love that reference to the blue stone. All right, President Jim, we have time for one more question. This is our final question. JMU parent Priya Correa asks, what is your favorite cheese?
Well, you know, that's an unfair question because coming most recently from America's dairy state, I was blessed to have surrounding in our little town so many great cheesemakers. And you know, you got to start with the Wisconsin cheese curd as just a good starting place. But I like blue cheese, Parmesan cheese. I like cheddar cheese. I like Munster, Jarlsberg. I like cheese. You know, I have to say, you know, I go into the Virginia grocery stores and they don't have like 5 aisles of cheese like we have in Wisconsin, but gratefully, I've been able to get my cheese fix since moving to the Commonwealth. Still haven't had my first Virginia ham, so I got to get on top of that.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right. So, President Jim, we have covered a lot of ground tonight already. And I want to thank you, JMU Dukes, for showing such interest in the future with your questions. But speaking of the future, now President Jim has some questions for all of you that will help us inform our new strategic plan. These questions will appear in the chat as we go along.
And so, Nick, just a reminder, they're able to submit this. And is there a QR code? Is this the right time we're doing that?
That is right. That's
All
correct.
right.
Yep.
So I want you to first of all know that I read every single comment. We've been doing this all over the campus, different audiences, and you are my first big group of alumni, and we're going to go on the road. So tell your friends if you look at the schedule when I'm going to be in their town. I know we're going to be in Charlotte, and we're going to be in Norfolk and all kinds of places all over the area. So if you know people there, you tell them to come see me in person. I'd love to meet them. And I'm interested in what you have to say. Read every single comment. So first question, it's in the comment. Why JMU? What sets a JMU degree and student experience apart from others? The quality of our education, the experiences we offer, and the opportunities we provide. And I want to challenge you because you know what? Most of the things that I've already learned and love about JMU, the things that we've already talked about, that amazing faculty student experience, that sense of esprit de corps where you don't feel like a number, you feel like you belong. By the way, we've reached 23,000, nearly 200 students this year, a record enrollment. We have more than almost, well, I think it's 46,000 applications we had this year to come to your alma mater. But how can we talk about that? How can we talk about what really sets us apart in ways that other universities also aren't talking about it? Because I will tell you, JMU is different. And we need to find the language and the things that can help set us apart from the pack. Because while we're growing and while our applications are growing, it's a challenging time for higher ed. We're very fortunate, and it's my job to make sure that we continue this strength and success in the decades ahead. But I need your help to think about that and how we talk about it. So that's the first question. I'd like you to give that some thought. The second question I have is now to look further into the future. Imagine it's 2035. It's only 10 years away, folks. It's right around the corner. What are we receiving national or international recognition for? What's different about the JMU degree? What is it that we're known for? Are we known for things like every student having an internship? Every student studying abroad? That would be audacious. Are we known for being the best at undergraduate research as we lean into the research mission to ensure every student has that opportunity? Because all of those are considered high impact experiences and are absolutely transformational. A lot of schools talk about it. Can we be disruptive, not to catch up with other universities, but to be leapfrogging ahead of all the other universities across the country? What would we be known for nationally or internationally? I'd love your creativity on this one. Our final question that I want to put in front of you, I think it's our final one, is really about our core mission as a public institution named for the main author of the Constitution. We have a responsibility to the public good. If JMU, and no one's ever asked me this question because I would think pretty audaciously, if JMU had unlimited resources, what major challenge, whether in the Shenandoah Valley, across Virginia, nationwide, or even globally, are we uniquely positioned to help solve? You know, we've heard about shortages of nurses and teachers. Should we be at the heart of rethinking the K-12 school system with our educational partners? Should we be looking at water, food sustainability, How about rural health care and the shortcomings that are happening there? Give some thought to what might be something that's grounded in what we're known for, something that we have some expertise in, but could assemble some energy around solving it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Where could we have a real impact and help shape the world that we are a part of? How's that for audacious thinking, audacious questions? Help us dream and dream big. It's been my experience, even though we don't have unlimited resources, if there is a powerful vision, if there is the track record to show that when we put our mind to something, we can succeed, can we differentiate ourselves in higher ed to attract state, federal government support, large foundation support, philanthropic support, that we can rally people into believing and helping to solve a real problem. Maybe it's around civil discourse and helping to bring this country back together. Thank you so much for your time and energy tonight. These are big questions, and I know that you will provide us with a wealth of wisdom, because after all, you are JMU grads. Go Dukes.
All right, I'm back. Thank you, President Jim, for those thought-provoking questions. I'm confident you're going to get some really dynamic responses. And we just want to thank you again for being here with us tonight so the Dukes of JMU can get to know you better and understand your vision, and so that you can get to better know us. President Jim, you're free to go, and thank you again for joining us tonight.
See you, Nick. Thank you for everything.
All right, I'll end our time together by encouraging you to respond to President Jim's questions. Your input is important so that we give President Jim a full 360-degree view of James Madison University and the impact that we can have on its future. Let me remind you that you're welcome to attend our in-person presidential tour events. You'll receive an email after tonight that provides a link to all things JMU Presidential Tour: information, event registration, and the survey link. The link to the survey is also in the chat. Plus, we will leave a QR code on the screen for a few minutes after we close. But once again, thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful night, and go Dukes.